Hello, welcome. My name is Denis, and welcome to Drumfills Kafé. Welcome to a fifth season and the fourth episode of this fifth season. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Before we begin, I invite you to check out all the social media pages from Drumfills Kafé, to go check out the YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages of Drumfills Kafé, to do a like, and of course to subscribe to those pages. Also, go check out drumfillscafe.com to figure out all about the past seasons and what's upcoming for this fifth season. Tonight, very special guest, something a little different that we're used to. My guest tonight, excuse me, is a classical musician, most specifically a timpanist. He has been the principal timpanist at the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, has been part of various ensembles, the New Zealand Chamber Orchestra, I Musici Montreal, and the McGill Chamber Orchestra. He has been the principal timpanist for the Montreal Symphony Orchestra since 1999 and used to teach at McGill University and University of Montreal. I'd like to welcome Andrei Malashenko.
Hi.
Hello. I'm good. Thank you so much for saying yes. I hope I said your last name correctly.
Yeah, Malashenko. It's SH, but that's okay.
Okay.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Well, thank you so much for saying yes. We're not, how to say, we have a lot of popular musicians, but rarely some classical musicians. So I'm pretty excited about that for tonight. And I'm probably going to ask you some very beginner questions, but I think
no problem.
I think it'll answer a lot of questions that most of us will have. So where are you right now? You seem pretty relaxed. You seem like pretty cool. Are you at home? Are you in the studio?
I'm at home and just chilling out with my coffee here. Yeah.
Well,
very
good.
Relaxed.
That's good. So I won't ask any math questions.
Yeah.
You want some?
That's a great idea, man. Do not ask me math. 24% in grade 7.
Oh, really? Well, it's interesting. It's interesting. Go ahead. Sorry.
It wasn't good.
Well, no, it's interesting because I will say too, I sucked at math, and for some reason, math is so part of percussion and music, but for some reason, doesn't click for.
I know. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I just was really bad at math forever. But then I had one really amazing teacher, and I boosted my average to about 76. That was by grade 11. But
okay.
Apart from that, it was quite a disaster, the math.
Well, to start, back in the day, did you already have sort of the music bug back in the day? Were you more artistic than, say, Cartesian or sort of mathematician?
I started with piano, played a couple of years of piano, but I always wanted to play drums. And so my parents finally bought me a drum set. And I played that for a couple of years, but then, I kind of left it. I was in high school. I was doing other stuff, playing a lot of hockey, played in Dullard. And at some point, really what happened was I discovered Neil Peart.
Now, you mentioned that, and I find that very interesting. So I'm curious to know how Neil Peart goes from that to classical music. But
yeah, me too, man. Well, I just flipped out when I heard him. I just couldn't believe it. I'd never heard that kind of drumming before, and I think it was in grade 10 or grade 9. I just started coming home after school,
right,
trying to play Neil Peart, trying to play Rush tunes all the time. Started with 2112 on the Moving Pictures, then Signals. And I had never really considered going into music seriously, but I just loved it so much. And come time to choose, your path, I was going either for law or accounting. And my mom said, listen, I think you should do music. And it's like, bing. So, I said, that's a great idea. And I auditioned to Marianopolis College.
Okay.
and I got in, and with the full, uh, full goal of being a drummer like Neil Peart, and then I discovered classical music, which was always played in the house when I was a kid. But I kind of like, Kiss is better, Led Zeppelin's better, Rush is better, all that stuff. I don't want to hear that, man. Play me some Rush, Styx, all that stuff. I was just listening to that all the time. But then I discovered it, and I don't know, I just got into it, and my path kind of led to symphony orchestra. I didn't really make a conscious decision. I just kind of it just went there. And all my life, I've been kind of going with the path type thing.
I see. So going with the flow, basically.
Yeah. So, I did university, and then I did a post bachelor's at Université de Montréal. And then I got my first gig in New Zealand, and it was kind of like that.
I got to back up a bit because there's a lot of information there. Did you, when you trying to recreate those Peart or Peart, as we always say, did you try to recreate those classical moments, if you will, on the drum kit, or wish you could recreate those?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who had his size kit when we were teenagers. But doing those fills, that you can, it was always on 2 or 3 toms.
Right. No, exactly.
Once in a while, when I was going to McGill, sometimes I would bring home a couple of small toms, and then I'd so I was trying to recreate everything he was playing. I mean, to this day, I have a lot of admiration for how he played, his unbelievable professionalism. And even now when I watch him, I just it's a big loss for us, I think.
Well, I don't think it's that kind of a huge stretch from him to classical music, because he's kind of has that sort of very disciplined mentality, very compositional, drumming, if you will.
I think that's what I really loved about him. It was so unbelievably disciplined and serious, and his playing was so clean. It was so clean all the time. And when I'd go to see Rush, I mean, he was nailing everything. It was like he was, you've been there.
I think it was 5 times I got, which is nothing compared to other Rush
I know.
fanatics.
I know.
But for me, it was about 5 times. The last time I saw them was in 2013, and I got, instead of being in front, I was on the side, and I was sort of watching him from the side. And the amount of dynamics and height he was playing from his sticks, from all that, from above his head,
it's crazy. And
I was like, okay, yeah, I because I'm more of a jazzish kind of popish player, and I was just like, wow, okay, he's really going up there to nail everything.
Yeah, well, I understand why he had to take time off. I mean, I don't know if anybody hit those drums harder than he did. Every stroke. But yeah, the discipline and how clean he played really inspired me to become that kind of technical player type thing. It was something.
And moving on to the classical, was there a piece of classical music that you went, oh, okay, I get it now, when you were young?
Actually, no. It was just, when I started in university, I was first playing in a concert band, and they would do concert band versions of, classical pieces, orchestral pieces, I should say. And I just started getting into it more, and it just kind of overtook everything I was doing, everything I was thinking in terms of musically. I started, when you're doing an undergrad, you have to listen to a lot of orchestral music, take these courses, right? So I was discovering all these composers and stuff. And I guess I would imagine, I really got into Mahler and Stravinsky at that age. It just really blew my mind. And then later on, I got into Beethoven and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say it was one particular piece. I think it was an onslaught of all the music, classical music I heard, that really kind of took me there. If that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. It does make sense. It's discovering a different world, if you will, of music, basically, is what you're saying.
I really got into it. I mean, I essentially, in my university days, probably by around the second year of university, I just like all I listened to was classical music, and
Very
taking the
nice.
train to go downtown. It was all like in CJEP when I was taking the train. It was U2, Rush. Uh, I don't know. It's probably Saga. You know.
Oh yeah, right.
And then by university, when I was taking the train, it was Beethoven, Stravinsky, Mahler, and walking downtown, I was listening to Mahler on the Walkman.
Yeah. I've been there.
So it just overtook my life completely. The classical music.
Very nice. Very
Yeah,
nice. With McGill University, if I have my information correctly, you studied with Pierre Beluse.
I did. The first thing I did was when I was in Marianopolis. Marianopolis was affiliated with McGill, so you'd go do all your courses, your practical courses there. And the first person that taught me was Robert Slopkov, who teaches at McGill.
Okay.
That was the first year of CJEP, and he was great. He helped me enormously because I was kind of a little bit behind, and I'd never seen a conductor before. I was kind of a newbie when I got to school. It wasn't. Nothing in classical was familiar to me. Nothing. So Bob helped me a lot, and then the following year, Pierre took me on, and then I went to McGill and I studied with Pierre for another 3 years, and it was great.
And yeah, I've read up about him, and he seems to be one of those important guys back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, sort of.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was. He passed away. I don't know whether you know that, but it's been a couple of years now. But he was a real innovator with sounds and things like that, and he was really into contemporary music, and he was into sound concept. Anything you did, it has to sound good. Get a nice sound out of the drum, out of the cymbal, out of a triangle, out of a bell, out of a crotale. Anything you do, it was always like sound to him, producing a sound. And that was really invaluable.
Something you still use today, I imagine.
Absolutely. It's all about quality of sound. It's really about that. It's for everything, pop to everything. It's you're a drummer. You have to have a nice sounding tom or a snare drum or a bass drum.
Yeah. And it fits with the band, basically. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then moving on to Université de Montréal is with Louis Charbonneau. I don't know as much about him, but can you talk a bit about what you learned from him?
He was Louis Charbonneau was the timpanist for the Montreal Symphony for 45 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and he when he retired, I took his place.
Okay.
He was a phenomenal timpanist. Phenomenal. His sound, he had such a beautiful, pure sound. It was fantastic. Okay. And he was just a great, energetic player. And so, I was really happy when he decided to teach me. I had met him at a summer camp. I went to study with him for a week with 2 other people. And I came back, and at that point, I was at the end of my 3 years bachelor's. And I was like, I don't know what to do, man. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Like, who am I going to study with? and then I ran into him. And so I got back, and I was talking to my mom, and I said, listen, I had just this guy is like just an amazing teacher. And so she said, call him. Tell him you want to study with him. Tell him you can't make it. You need his help to make it. So that's what I did. I called him. I said, Mr. Charbonneau, it's Malashenko. Listen, I want you to teach me. Can you please teach me? I don't think I can make it unless, you take me on as a student. And so the 3 of us that were at that week, that summer, he offered us all a spot at University of Montreal.
Wow.
So there was 3 of us in his class, and it was amazingly intense. He would give us a lesson, and we all had a 6-hour practice slot. So it was like from 8 till 1, 1 till 6, 6 till 11.
Wow.
And we would have to, so I was practicing like 6 hours a day. So
wow.
He did a master class so there we were learning orchestral repertoire, how to play timpani in an orchestra. That was really, that's where I really learned how to play timpani. I really specialized in timpani with Charbonneau, and it was like 6 hours a day of timpani. That's all it was.
Wow.
So it was great, man. It was like I did about a year with him until I got that gig in New Zealand.
Cool. Before I move on to the gig in New Zealand, I am curious. You're talking about 6 hours of timpani.
Yeah.
Is it rudimental? Is it getting the sound? Is it getting the pitch? Is it all
Yeah,
together?
so basically, my practicing was always amazingly structured. Like I would time how much I'd practice everything. That's what Beluse taught me, actually, because essentially when you're building a technique, it's kind of like working out, right? You do. So I was doing 5 minutes of right hand, 5 minutes of left hand, 5 minutes single strokes together, and like I was writing down my speeds, and then I'd go faster and faster, and I was timing everything. So it was very meticulous, my practice session. So with Charbonneau, like for 2 hours, I would be working on developing a really good timpani technique. Then for another hour, it'd be rolls, just because it's rolls. You really develop a nice sound through a roll, long tones. And then for the rest of it, I'd be learning the music he would make us learn. And the way we would do it is we would actually play the timpani part to a recording.
Oh, okay. Just like we do basically for pop music.
Exactly the same thing. Yeah. And so he would come in once a week, and he would sit down, and he would say, go. And we would play, Beethoven 5 or whatever we'd have to play. And then he would tell us what we did wrong. It was always a lot.
I hope you were taking, I'm sure you were taking notes.
A lot of notes. Yeah. But it was a really great experience. I mean, that man was not afraid to give us everything he knew.
That's nice.
Ask him anything. He had no secrets. Tell me what you want to know. I'll tell you how to do it. It was like that. It was a really great year. Fantastic. Yeah.
That's nice. That's so nice. And then you say at 24, I believe, that's where you got the chair for the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra. Is that correct?
Yeah. Charbonneau came in one day and said, listen, there's an opening for New Zealand Symphony, Principal Timpani, and I think you're ready to audition. So what I had to do is I had to make a tape of pieces that were imposed. And so we recorded the tape and I sent it, and I got a call about a month later saying, you want to come down for a trial period? So they flew me down. I played for 3 months. And it was between me and apparently another candidate. And after 2 months, they offered me the gig, or 2.5 months or something like that.
Awesome.
So I took it.
Now, was it the first time you've traveled abroad? That you're in a different continent? How
I'd never been to New Zealand before, but I've been to Europe a few times.
Okay.
But on my own like that, yeah, it was my first time, and it was it was wild, man. It's New Zealand. The language is English, but that's pretty much it in terms of similarities between Montreal and Montreal was, because New Zealand back then, it was kind of closing at 11.
Oh, and, really? Wow.
Yeah. It wasn't. Now it's it's just like here, but back then it was very different. So it was a wild experience, but amazing experience. I played there for 4 years, and I played with amazing people. I made a lot of really great friends, and I learned a lot about what it is to play in an orchestra. It was amazing. Yeah.
Very nice. You were talking about the audition process, though.
Yeah.
How intense it is, how, maybe even difficult. I don't know if you want to elaborate a bit more about that.
Well, in North America, how it works is there's an opening. Somebody has to retire, right?
Yes.
And that creates an opening. You don't just go, hey man, is there space? I want to come play. It doesn't, So somebody retires, and then there's an announcement. There's in the international musicians paper that there is an audition. You send your resume, and then you get a list of music that you have to prepare.
Right.
For Montreal Symphony, the stack was like that of music. There were 65 complete works, classical works that you had to know, which is a lot. So then come audition day, you show up, and my audition, it was an international audition. There were around, I guess, 65 people, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
So you show up, everybody takes a number. You are no longer a name, you become that number.
Okay.
So you pull a number from 1 till 65, and when they call your number, the way it works is this. So this is a screen, okay? You're on this side, and on this side is a jury of people.
Okay, well, that's fair. They don't see you then.
They don't see you. Yeah,
okay.
It's very fair. So you walk in, and you are asked to play around 5 or 6 pieces, excerpts from pieces.
Okay.
So you start playing. That's preliminary round.
Okay.
So from the word go, where you hit your first note, you can be axed.
Wow, really?
You can literally play 5 seconds, and if you hear a "thank you very much, next candidate, please," you're done for the day. It's kind of like, you know what, I equate it to Olympics. You know, you practice. I mean, you know, to really do well on an audition for MSO, when I was practicing that audition, I was doing 6 to 8 hours a day for 3 months, literally every day. You really, I mean, everybody does that. I'm not special. Everybody practices that much. So on the day of the audition, you know, you can play for 5 seconds and you can get a thank you and you're done.
Wow.
It could be amazingly cruel.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But okay, so you got past that stage, but how
yeah, so so everybody, if you finish your round, let's say, so you have 6 pieces to play,
right?
You finish your round, you haven't gotten the "thank you very much, next candidate," then you have to wait for everyone else to play. And after the preliminary round, what happens is somebody comes in and says, okay, the panel would like to hear the following numbers again. So the person names off from 5 to 10 numbers, and the rest of you, thank you very much. And so if your number isn't called, you go home. So then this is now the semifinal round.
Right. Okay.
You are asked again to play different pieces from the first round, and you walk in and you play, and you can hear "thank you" anytime, any second, same thing.
Seconds. Wow, during your play. Wow.
Yeah, like the same thing. So once you get through that round, if you get through that round, you have to wait till everybody finishes. Person comes back and goes, "We would like to hear the following numbers." So that goes on until there's a winner. So for my particular audition, it started at 8 a.m, and I won the gig at 6 p.m.
Wow.
Really long day, and there's a lot of waiting. And when you're on, you have to be on. There's no sorry, like, you know,
can I give me a second to warm up? Or yeah.
You once you walk in there, you just have to hope for the best. You have to rely on what you have practiced, and there's of course always a little bit of luck. You have to have a good day. You know, it's a lot of work and a bit of luck.
That's crazy. Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. It was one of the best days of my life, actually. I
can imagine.
You win. It's really an amazing feeling. You know?
I can imagine. Wow.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah. I was one serious party that night, man.
Well, after 3 months of intense practice, yes, I think you deserve it.
That was good party.
That's crazy. But yes, that is. I mean, we all go through it. We all go through auditions. But I must admit that's on another level, though. That's on a different level because, I
don't know. You know, like I think now it's for me, whatever genre, it's so competitive now. There's so many amazing drummers, and
There
there's,
are, yes.
it's just everyone is just so good now. Like what kids do with their feet now, it's like what I was doing with my hands.
I know. Well, we were talking about Peart, and there's 7-year-olds now playing his parts.
I know.
And I was a kid. I had to listen to the tape so many times just to get a certain half of the song or whatever. And I think I have it, but I'm not sure, sort of thing.
I know. But now, I think the audition process for everything now is I would say just as intense. I mean, I don't know whether when you go on audition for a band, for example, you can get cut after 10 seconds. Maybe if you really suck, who knows?
Yeah, no, for sure.
But it's very competitive everywhere now. I mean,
that's crazy. So, well, let's moving on. So, so you were the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra from 91 to 94.
Yeah.
What made you leave New Zealand and come back, or was it the? Because I think you
actually resigned, which,
okay.
I mean, it's for me. I loved it there, but my life was really back in Canada. All my family was here. I missed it a lot. Although I had a lot of good friends there. I just really wanted to come home. That was really it. And also, after 4 years, I kind of got burnt out a little bit with the orchestra scene. I kind of got tired of playing classical music. And I really felt like I wanted to do something else with my life. So that combined with I just want to get back to Canada or Montreal. I really missed Montreal. I mean, despite all the problems, I still think it's a wicked city.
It's the best of both worlds, or many worlds, really. It's a mix of like the North America and Europe and different cultures. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, there's a lot of Netherlands here, man. There's a lot of orange, right?
Well, I have Dutch family, so
yeah,
I do. Yes,
seeing all the orange cones everywhere.
I remember just a little story, a little side note.
You talk a little bit now.
Well, just a side note. Yes, there's a lot of Dutch people in of course in. Oh, sorry, my light's just acting up today.
Okay. It's all good.
And I remember once it was World Cup, and someone said we're going to go watch a game at like 9 a.m. at a pub, and I'm like 9 a.m. at a pub on a Sunday. Like yeah. And I show up there, and there's like 40 or 50 Dutch people just already cheering on and drinking and whatever, and it's like, okay, you guys are dead serious. So
great city. I missed it a lot. And when you're in university, you're out and about a lot in this city, and it's a great city for that.
Yeah, for sure.
I missed that. And so I came back here, and I got a job in a record store.
Okay.
I took guitar lessons.
Okay.
Electric guitar, which I love that instrument. And my guitar teacher, their drummer left their band, so they needed a drummer. So I said, sure, I'll do it. So I had an audition for the band, and I remember I had to play was it Suck My Kiss by Chili Peppers?
Chili Peppers. Oh my God, yes, you're bringing me back. Yeah.
Now, I'm sitting there at home, writing out the part type thing, because I had to read it at first, and there was something else. I think maybe some Offspring. It was the grunge band.
God. Right.
So, so I got the gig. So for about a year, I was playing in a grunge band. We were doing all the bars in West Island, Laval, downtown, and I loved it, man. I had the best time. Fantastic. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that's awesome. You can cross over back to pop. That's amazing. That's crazy.
It was look, man, it's once you play classical for a while, it took me a while to really get into the hitting again and getting into the the playing it properly, the way you got to play it, But I loved it. It was a great experience. I met a lot of amazing people that I still keep in touch with, some of them. But after a year, I was kind of going, well, $30 after 3 nights. I don't know if I can.
That's the downside is that, and I'm sure you were making a certain amount of money and hasn't really changed in today's wage, if you will. But yes, of course. I mean, sometimes it's a great night and you don't get much money, but you have great memories and a lot of fun. And
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes it is a good night. You do get a lot of cash. It all depends. Sometimes
it's if you can make a living doing it, I mean, it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. I loved it, but I don't know, also at some point I did miss the classical a little bit, and
Right.
so I at that point I was also working as a secretary at McGill. I was a receptionist, and there was a percussion audition at MSO, and so I said, you know what, I'm going to go for that because
Yeah.
And so I was working as a secretary from 9 till 3, and then I was practicing like from 3:30 till 10. That for a while, but I didn't get the gig. I didn't win it, but I started getting called as an extra there. I started working as an extra in percussion there.
Okay. And when you say MSO, you mean just to be clear?
Yeah, Montreal Symphony.
Montreal Symphony Orchestra. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing that you came back and everything. It's I mean, I wonder if you ever pull some offspring in Montreal Symphony Orchestra.
Well, like I do. Sorry, I play. On the timpani. Can I just describe the timpani a little bit?
Well, yeah. Let's get to that part because now, like you say, you've been there from '99, and let's get to the nitty-gritty of a timpanist and what do you play and how many drums and everything. So yeah, go ahead.
So can you see that?
Yep.
Well, okay. So these are timpani, and you see those pedals there, right?
Right.
Okay. So timpani usually in an orchestra you'll play on 4 drums, and they're different sizes. They're actually, you can equate them to sizes of tom-toms. You have different sizes. Same thing with timpani. So you have a very large to small, and so again, I'll just come back to this for a second. So these pedals, what they do is when you depress the pedal, it pulls on the skin, and the pitch gets higher. The skin gets tighter, the pitch gets higher. So on these 4 drums, each drum has about an octave of notes.
That was one of my questions. How many intervals of you have from one drum? Interesting.
So
okay.
Each drum has about an octave, and so you're basically playing with 4 octaves. Sometimes you get even a smaller timpani, which is called a Piccolo Timpani, and then you have another higher octave on that. And so you tune the notes based on your parts. So actually, maybe I can show you. So basically, you see that?
Yep.
So it's treble clef, and what you would do is you would tune the notes based on the drums based on the notes you see here.
So to a specific key, or
yeah, well, it's I mean, the pieces are in a key, but what you see, the instructions are never tuned in the key of A major. You'll see the notes on the bass clef, and you'll tune the notes to the appropriate drum. So if it's an A, a normal A 440, I'm going to tune it on the piccolo drum. I'm going to tune it on the drum that corresponds to that note. So the lower notes you tune on the lower drum, and and it goes up. Is that fairly clear?
Yes. Well, so when you say you tune to A, you start with the smallest drum, is what you're saying, or to your middle drum?
No. So if I'm going to tune, like if I tune an A, a normal A 440, right? I would tune it on one of the middle drums.
I see. Right. Okay.
That drum is where the A sounds the best and where it works. If I had a very high G, I wouldn't tune it on the second drum because it didn't sound good. I'd tune it on the smallest drum.
Right.
So basically, the tuning corresponds to how low the notes are. So it corresponds to the drum. The lower notes, the bigger the drum. The higher notes, the smaller the drum.
Right. Makes sense. Cool. And the pedal is I mean, you're going for a note as you need to go, depending on where you are in the piece. Basically, that's kind of the point of the pedal.
Yeah. So it depends on the repertoire you're playing. Basically, if you're playing Beethoven, which is classical repertoire, usually Beethoven wrote for 2 notes.
Okay.
If you're playing romantic contemporary repertoire, you'll use your 4 drums, and during the piece, you'll change the note on the drum.
I see.
So you'll start off with an A, you'll move it to a B. On the other drum, you start with a D, you can move it to an F or an E. So it's basically, it depends on how the composer writes the parts.
Okay. That's very interesting. That's a lot to think about as you're playing, basically.
You have to be organized. But you get, like everything, you get used to it.
You get used to it. You know that at some point in this part, I have to go tune to this note, and you're coming back, and yeah, I see. Interesting. What are the? I picked up. I saw the website. Hard key. I hope to say it correctly.
Hardke, yeah, Hardke timpanis. It's a timpani that's they're really beautiful drums, and they're made in Germany. And the orchestra bought a set about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And it's one. There's a couple of timpani makers. Hardke is one of them. I really like the sound, so we went with Hardke. You can buy Adams, and Yamaha makes timpani too. They make really nice timpani, but I really liked Hardke, so that's what we went with.
Okay. And anything specific why these ones you prefer compared to other ones, or is there something, or just your ears are drawn to? I guess like any drummers like prefers a Ludwig over or whatever sort of thing.
Exactly. My ear was drawn to the sound, the color of the drum. I thought that they had a nasty side to them when you get loud,
Okay.
So every drum, as you know, every drum has a characteristic drawn to it. So I was drawn to the characteristics of these drums. I thought that the tone was really beautiful when you played quietly, and projection of the drum projects amazingly well, and it has just a very special sound that I really like.
Nice. In terms of what you're using, mallets, what are the kind of standard stuff? I mean, you have the mallets themselves. I saw you at one point playing a song with piece, we're basically using sticks with nothing on the mallets sort of thing.
Yeah, well, hold on a second. I think so. I have some here. So like these. All right, let's get organized. So you have small guys like this. Then you have a little bigger. Then you have a little bigger, and it all corresponds to the type of sound you want to produce. There's also, bear with me.
Don't hurt yourself now.
Yeah. So then you have something like this that's very hard.
Right.
Like very hard felt. You hear that?
Right. Yes.
And you can have, let's see. There's wood, and I put a little piece of tape on it when I was playing to fix, just to change the contact a bit.
Right.
So you have all these kind of you have these different mallets that create different sounds, different colors, also different articulation. So if a conductor wants to hear something really clearly, you're going to take a harder mallet.
Okay.
And you're going to use that. So basically, you have a ton of mallets.
Of choices, yeah, exactly. So depending on what's required, I see. Okay. Not very different.
It gets a little crazy, actually, because, you can end up with a box full of mallets, and you're just like, man, I don't know what. You have to, do some house cleaning sometimes.
Yeah, I did that recently during COVID times. I was like, why do I have these like 2B sticks? Like I don't need this for a jazz setting or whatever. But yeah, I have them. And the skin intrigues me because, I mean, of course they're much bigger. You need to. How do you tune them? How many times do you change them? in a
Well,
season? How does that work?
there's two types of heads actually. There's the plastic ones, and there's calfskin. And most people now, especially now, it really came back, it became popular again in North America. It was always very popular in Europe, but in North America, everyone used to play plastic, or most
Right.
people. Now everybody plays calfskin because
Calfskin.
the sound is much warmer. It's a very, very beautiful sound. Those, it really depends on how much you play on the heads. Will decide when you need to change them.
Okay.
Plastic as well. You'll hear when a head gets fatigued. It's exactly like on a drum set. When the head's tired, you have to change it. Calfskin, it's much more difficult to play because they're very sensitive to humidity. So if you're playing in a concert hall that's dry, the pitch, you can tune a D, but the pitch will move based on the humidity. It'll dry up, the skin gets tighter.
Really?
So it's a lot more complicated. You have to pay a lot more attention. The trade-off for the sound, like it's amazing. I love the sound.
So you're getting a sort of a difficulty, but at least a better sort of round sound from calfskin.
Yeah, it's just warmer, darker, more. It's richer, But at OSM or MSO OSM, we have timpani with plastic on them and timpani with calfskin on them. So depending on what we do, like you'd never go outside and you play calfskin.
Okay, so I have to switch it to plastic. I see.
Yeah, you use plastic outside. So, like I said, when the head gets tired, you change it. It's exactly like any head on any drum. You hit it, sounds bad, try to tune it, play with it a bit. Once that's over, you change the head.
Okay, awesome. And let's go back a bit to the OSM or the MSO, if you would say. Take me through a regular day of you playing a concert at that night. Like, how does your day start? You have a concert at night. Is it
well? What happens is
dedicated to that, or how does it go?
Well, it's basically we do maybe 2 or 3 concerts a week.
Okay.
So we'll do one program per week, and we'll do 3 concerts of that program, which consists usually of 3 pieces, 1 big piece and 2 smaller ones. So we'll rehearse for a day and a half, 2 days. Then we'll do a dress rehearsal in the morning from 10 till 1. Then at night we do the show.
Okay.
So basically I get up, hit the traffic, get to the concert hall, have a coffee, do the rehearsal, come home, chill out,
okay,
and then go back and do the show.
So at this point, I mean, it's kind of regular business, but are you still nervous? Are you still sort of stressed at that time?
Yeah, I'm not the cool dude that goes, "Hey man, I got a show. It's all good." I worry about my shows, and not to the point where I can't do anything. But it's kind of like always in the back of my mind. So, I'm there, but I'm not. I'm thinking about the show, and really also it depends on what piece we're playing. If we're playing something that's extremely difficult for timpani, like Rite of Spring, for example, by Stravinsky, which is very challenging for the timpanist, and so that kind of piece essentially ruins my day.
Well, and you named it as one of your favorite pieces.
I love it, man. It's like a great piece to play. And see, for me, the build up to it is when I get nervous. Once I'm doing it, I'm okay. I feel great and I'm into it. But that whole 5 hours before or 6 hours before you have to do it, I'm thinking about it all the time, and I'm thinking where I have to be careful, where are the traps, what could go wrong, what do I do if something goes wrong, how do I count it, how is my time? Like I'm always using a metronome, and so the pre-concerts. Like I said, I'm not the coolest dude on the planet. I'm nervous and I'm thinking about it and I want to do well. And, it's just a process I go through all the time. And I will tell you, after, I don't know, I've been playing like 30 years now.
Mhm.
It hasn't changed. I'm just used to it.
Right, right. You know how to deal with it, basically.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can still go to the bank and do internet banking and stuff without without losing, without going crazy. But I'm thinking about what I have to do that night.
Right, 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 right. It's game day, basically. It's game night, basically. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I haven't really. It was difficult. What I found very difficult actually was during the pandemic. We essentially stopped.
Right. That was one of my questions. Yeah.
Yeah, we stopped for a good 4 months.
Hmm.
And then we went back to the concert hall, an empty concert hall, but we were playing in front of cameras. We were doing all this virtual stuff forever.
Mhm.
And I found it difficult at the beginning after not playing for 4 months. The nerve chops. You know what I mean? I
Right,
was,
right, right.
it,
The mental part.
yeah, it was took me a bit to get used to it again. Now I'm okay. Now I'm just regular nervous. So,
Mm, mm.
but yeah, I mean, it's kind of who I am. I totally accepted it. I don't walk around pretending I'm not nervous because I think that's detrimental to what I'm going to do. I kind of
Mhm.
use that nervous energy when I'm on stage. I use that nervous energy towards the performance, and so I wish I
Well,
was one of those dudes that never bothered me, but it does.
well, it basically shows that you care, basically, and that you are thinking ahead of of your performance, and I think that's a great thing. Personally, I think that's a good thing to have as an artist.
Yeah, well, it's honestly, Denis, I don't know whether it's good or bad, but it's just who I am, what I
Mm.
have to deal with, and I deal with it. And it's in the show, it's always okay. And then I'm
Mhm.
driving home, and I always ask myself, I don't know why you were so nervous all day, man. It was fine.
Well, how about this question?
Yeah.
How does a bad concert go? It does, or does a bad concert ever happen? Actually.
Yeah. I mean, how does a bad concert go? A bad concert will in all honesty, at this point in my career, it doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
It does happen where I make a mistake, and it's for me personally, it takes me a while to forgive myself. Like,
Mm,
it's like you shouldn't, like I whip myself for making a mistake,
okay.
but I know I'm human. It
Yeah,
happens.
exactly.
And I just, I get it by the next day, I'm okay. But when I get home at night, I'm sitting there watching TV and I'm going, man, I can't believe I did that.
Well, I'm sure it's a lesson, and then the next time you get to that piece, you don't
Yeah, well,
reproduce that error. So.
the thing about when we do concerts, like if you make the mistake the first night, the second night you're there and so I'm gonna nail this now.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean? Type thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's like that for everybody.
Mhm.
But it's just, yeah.
I'm curious because you're the principal timpanist, but you have somebody else that's the associate
Right.
timpani.
Yeah.
So, what are the different roles basically that he plays? I think it's Hugues Tremblay, if I got it correct.
Yeah. Great player. Great player. Great guy. We're like a great team. So basically, the way it works at the OSM is the principal will play the bigger works,
Mhm.
and the associate will play the smaller ones in the piece, or the shorter ones.
Okay.
For example, you can have a piano concerto the first half, and the second half you'll have a big symphony. So the associate will play the piano concerto, and then the principal will play the symphony. So that works. There's in my position, the associate. What am I trying to say here? Yeah, everybody has one. So every principal has an associate in the orchestra. So the horn has one,
I see.
trumpet, uh, flute, clarinet type thing,
Okay.
and that's the way it's divided up. Some orchestras in Europe have co-principals where they basically share concerts type thing. You play this one, I'll play that one.
Another one. Okay. 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 Okay.
Here it works this way. Though during the pandemic, the concerts because we wanted to avoid a lot of people having contact. The associate would play one full show, the principal would play the other one.
Okay.
Just because the person's the associate doesn't mean they're not capable of playing whatever the principal plays. Do you know what I mean?
Right. It's just that that's their title in the orchestra. I see.
Right.
I see. Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because again, these are questions I'm not familiar, and I'm sure some of our viewers are not familiar with. So I'm curious to know.
Way. I mean, it's my pleasure.
Moving on to a bit more to well, just to close up on the OSM. So you do, I think, 100 concerts per year. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's probably between 100 and 125 concerts a year, and that doesn't include recordings, CDs, stuff like that. It's pretty busy. It's a busy
Exactly. Yeah, they're crazy. And how does it work for the CD? Because that's also something you wanted to discuss for the recording.
Well, CDs that's basically how it works is this. You're going to record a symphony. You do it in a day. The recordings are usually one day. So you what we'll do is we will do a couple of rehearsals. We'll do the show, and then we'll record it.
Okay.
It's a one-day process. So there's really not a lot of room for error or anything like that. It's CDs. It's high-end stress. There's a lot. It's very expensive to record an orchestra. Right. I think somebody told me it was like $1,000 every 10 minutes or something. Because there's so many people on stage, and it's a massive production. So you don't have a lot of takes. I mean, you really don't have a lot of takes. You gotta get it the first take. And yeah, I remember when I first started in OSM, it was Charles Dutoit who was the conductor, and the way he recorded was you would just play it, and that was it, man.
Wow.
There were no, okay, let's take it from letter A to let's take it from this part to this part. It was, you played the whole thing through. And so you have to be really ready, and you show up and you know that you're not going to have a lot of time, and you have to play things right all the time. I mean, that's your goal. Obviously, some mistakes happen and they restart, but there's not a lot of that. You got one day to record this basically, and
that's it. That's it. Crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, you have to be at the top of your game, basically.
Yeah, you really do. There's no experimenting. I think it's, I don't know how. It would be nice if you had 2 or 3 days to come back and say, I want to play this again. I kind of would like to approach it in a different way, but it doesn't happen that way. It's just too expensive, and nobody has time, and time is money, and that's
interesting.
That.
Talk to me quickly. This is from basically someone who's not in an orchestra, but talk to me of the feeling of you being in that orchestra playing with all those people in front, and the people in the seats and everybody. Like, what's the feeling? What is there, and the power I must imagine from that orchestra coming back when you're playing?
Well, first thing I gotta say is playing with how can I explain? Okay, so when I won that gig, the most amazing thing to me was being accepted as one of the musicians, because the musicians that I play with, I'm really lucky. I'm playing with ridiculously amazing musicians. It's just, just one of the things I love doing in that orchestra is not playing.
Just to listen. Right.
I'm listening, and I have an amazing admiration for those musicians, and for me to be accepted amongst them, it's really an amazing. For me, it's an amazing accomplishment. Power of an orchestra when we're going for it, it's phenomenal. Sound around you is it's just amazing. The volume and the sound, is it's really something. It's really something. To be in the middle of it is amazing, and I have an amazing job. I mean, essentially, I'm the drummer for an orchestra, because the biggest job of a timpanist is to keep the groove, to keep the beat, and everybody basically relies on you to keep the tempo going and to lay it down. That's one of the biggest jobs of a timpanist. You know, you're essentially, you have a conductor in front that's beating the beat, and
Mhm.
in the back, and you're laying it down.
Mhm.
Really, it's great, man. It's a big responsibility, but I love it. It's like it's a blast. And when I
So
think about, you know, my life, that I'm a timpanist and I get to do this, you know, I mean, listen, man, you don't have great days every day, but I'm very, very, very lucky. I worked very hard to get it, but you know, I'm really lucky to have this gig. I mean, I live off playing music, so pretty cool, gotta say.
that's that is the dream. That is the dream.
Living the
Well,
dream, man. Living the dream.
well, thank you for sharing that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, basically, it's the same thing for an orchestra. The orchestra is only as good as its drummer, I guess. You know.
No, okay, we'll go with that. Sounds good.
A few last questions, and I thank you
Sure.
again for your time. This is amazing.
It's been my.
Um,
By the
so
way, I
you
want to tell you, man. Just I want to interrupt you. Your
sure.
covers are great. Your
Oh, thank you, thank
And I
you.
want to tell you that the sound, your sound of your kit. I know we're digressing big time.
That's okay.
I have to throw it in. The sound of your kit, how you record it, well done. Really
Oh,
neat job.
thank
You're a
you,
really
thank
nice
you.
drummer. Very solid.
Oh man, that coming from you, that means a lot, and a Pure fan, that means a lot. So yeah, I have to before we end. I am curious as to you were saying Stravinsky, Rite of Spring,
Yeah.
and some of Mahler stuff. What attracts
Yeah.
you to those pieces?
Well, the Stravinsky, it's very primal, very, very rhythmical, amazingly challenging for the timpani. Uh, and it's, you know, that's basically why I love Rite of Spring. Really primal. It's like, for me, I consider it the metal of,
Mhm.
you know, and uh, it could just sound ridiculously raw, and you know, of course, it depends on the conductor and how the conductor interprets the piece,
Mm.
but it could sound just like raw, on edge, heavy. That's why I love that. Mahler, I love. He writes beautiful melodies. His orchestration is amazing. Nobody orchestrates, in my opinion, as well as Mahler does. It's just beautifully written parts. They all fit together beautifully, and his melodies are just beautiful. You know, that's, I don't know how else to describe it. And he writes epic symphonies. I mean, his
Mm.
symphonies are never under an hour. So it's a long work, you know, and he throws in everything in there: organ, full orchestra, sopranos, like soloists in front, 100,000 piece choir in the back. I mean, he has done it all
It goes
for,
big.
and in, yeah, he goes big. And for percussion, I mean, he uses everything. So, and he
Mm.
writes really well for instruments, really well.
Mm.
Which is, you know, sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes you have a piece where the composer writes stuff that's, you know, not amazingly, doesn't work amazingly well for the instrument. But Mahler, just everything is beautifully written. It's not easy to play, but it works, you know. So yeah, I love Mahler. It's great. Shostakovich, another one, Russian.
Mm.
He writes amazing snare drum parts and timpani parts. His pieces are really dark, they're heavy, but his, you know, it's what I tell every aspiring composer for orchestra. If you want to learn how to write a snare drum part, listen to Shostakovich.
Okay, interesting.
It's really fantastic parts. So yeah. Now, what we're doing, is that what you want to know too? What we're up to these?
Yeah, exactly. So for 2022, what's coming up for you?
Yeah, so we're back. We actually started last week with we play at Maison Symphonique, and that has a capacity of about 2,000, I believe, 2,300. We're playing for 500 right now, people.
Right, for the restrictions, right? Right.
Yeah. So we started 2 weeks ago. The first show was virtual. Last week, people started to come in, which was awesome. Man. It was so nice to play for people again. It makes a big difference. It's really wild, but yeah, it's really, really different. You know, when you do virtual, you're in your tuxedo, everything's the same. The way the orchestra starts, the way the conductor walks on, everything's the same, but there's no one in the hall. It's like a Twilight Zone deal a little bit. And when the people are in there, there's like you definitely, I understand the vibe from the audience. It really made me appreciate it so much more, when people are listening. So now, hopefully in March, I think it's going to be full capacity. I'm hoping. So we're back to normal concerts. We have a summer season with our new conductor, Rafael Payare, who's took over Kent Nagano's spot.
Mm-hmm.
And he's great dude, really nice guy, great musician, and we have a lot of fun with him. So I'm really looking forward to that, playing more concerts. And I just hope that nothing's closed again. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And that's about it. So we're back to business, and hopefully it stays that way.
Very cool. Very cool. So they can find out all your concert at osm.com, I believe. Is that?
Yeah, I think it's osm.ca or .com. One of the two. I'm not sure.
I'll put it up in the chat for.
Sometimes we do. You might be able to see some free virtual stuff on the website. I think. I'm not sure, but I think there's some free stuff, and yeah, you can always come and check it out.
Awesome. It seems that God or whatever higher power doesn't want my light, so it's saying it's time to end. Time to end the interview. I have so many more questions, but I thank you so much for your time. And if anybody wants to check out Andrei, of course, OSM, and can they reach you if they want to know more about you, or if they need a few lessons, or I think you've done with teaching.
Well,
I believe.
Yeah, I don't really teach that much anymore, but I can certainly, if somebody needs lessons, I can certainly hook them up with really in the classical department, some really good people. So
awesome.
Yeah, and you can always, I don't know, friend me on Facebook or whatever. I don't know.
Awesome.
One of those things. Yeah.
Fantastic. I will finish my interview in the dark, it seems.
I want to thank you for having me. It's been really a lot of fun, and it was a real pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andrei. Thank you so much. And I wish you the best for 2022. And go check it out, because it's the OSM is just amazing, basically. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
I wish you a good night, and thank you so much.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So there you go. That was our episode for tonight. I thank you so much for being with us tonight. Come back next week for more of Drumfills Cafe. Until then, I wish you all the best and stay safe, and see you next week. Ciao.